Hey gamers and nostalgia seekers, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the bizarre and the obscure as we explore some of the strangest Nintendo games you've probably never heard of. From unconventional gameplay to bizarre storylines, these titles are sure to make you question what you thought you knew about gaming. Hang with us to the end for the most outrageous NES game. Buckle up as we journey through the weird world of Nintendo's most curious. First up is Monster Party. Released for the NES in 1989, this game is a weird blend of platforming and horror. You play as a boy named Mark, who's dragged into a monster-filled world after summoning a creepy creature named Bert. The game's levels are packed with bizarre enemies and nightmarish bosses. The most unusual aspect? You can even transform into monsters to aid in your quest. While it didn't set the sales charts on fire, Monster Party has earned a cult following for its unique mix of horror and humor. Next, we have Taboo, The Sixth Sense. Released in 1990, this NES game is essentially a digital fortune teller. Using a combination of tarot cards and eerie predictions, Taboo gives players their future in the form of cryptic messages. It's a bizarre and experimental title that blends the mysticism of fortune-telling with gaming. It wasn't a huge hit, but it's a fascinating relic of the NES era. Moving on to Zombie Nation, a 1991 release where you control a floating, disembodied head in a post-apocalyptic world. Yes, you heard that right. You're an evil entity tasked with saving Japan from an alien invasion by possessing various objects and enemies. The game is known for its peculiar premise and over-the-top action. While it never gained mainstream success, it's a standout for its sheer originality. Action 52 Time Warp Tickers is part of the infamous Action 52 collection, notorious for its low-quality games. This particular title, released in 1991, is a platformer with a confusing time travel theme. The collection itself is often remembered more for its poor execution and infamous reputation than for any particular gameplay merits. Next up, Baby Boomer, a 1990 NES game where you play as a baby trying to save your parents from being kidnapped by aliens. Your only tool is a slingshot, and the game's difficulty can be quite challenging. It's a quirky and often frustrating experience, but it stands out for its offbeat premise and the unusual role reversal of playing as an infant. Princess Tomato and the Salad Kingdom is a 1991 adventure game that's as quirky as its title suggests. You help the heroic tomato rescue Princess Tomato from the clutches of the evil Salad King. The game is a mix of point-and-click adventure and RPG elements, with a charmingly absurd story and a unique vegetable-themed world. It didn't achieve widespread success, but remains a cult classic for its originality and humor. Released in 1992, Wally Bear and the No Gang is an educational game aimed at teaching kids about the dangers of drugs and other harmful activities. You control Wally Bear, who's on a mission to stop the nefarious plans of the No Gang. The game's educational focus and somewhat preachy tone make it a curious entry in the NES library. Hatris, a 1990 game for the Game Boy, is a puzzler that revolves around stacking hats instead of the more common blocks. Developed by the same team behind Tetris, it's a curious variation that didn't quite catch on. The game's oddball concept and quirky design make it a fascinating footnote in the puzzle genre. Wall Street Kid, released in 1990, allows players to experience the high-stakes world of stock trading. You start with a modest amount of money and aim to become a successful investor. The game combines strategy with financial management, making it a unique entry in the NES library that appeals to fans of economics and business simulations. Takeshi's Challenge is a 1986 NES game that's infamous for its absurd difficulty and bizarre gameplay mechanics. Created by Takeshi Kitano, a Japanese comedian and filmmaker, this game is notorious for its cryptic puzzles and punishing difficulty. It's a cult classic for its sheer weirdness and the challenge it presents. Pinball Quest, released in 1990, is a unique mix of pinball mechanics and RPG elements. You guide a pinball through various stages, each with its own objectives and challenges. The combination of pinball physics with RPG progression is both innovative and oddly satisfying, making it a standout for fans of both genres. Color A Dinosaur is a 1992 game that lets players color dinosaurs in various hues. It's essentially a digital coloring book with minimal gameplay. While it's not a game in the traditional sense, its simplicity and focus on creativity make it a fascinating oddity in the NES catalog. Released in 1990, Master Chu and the Drunkard Hu is a platformer with a focus on martial arts and humor. The game features a protagonist who must save his master from an evil sorcerer. Its unique art style and offbeat humor have earned it a small but dedicated following. I Am a Teacher. Super Mario Sweater is a 1991 Japanese-only title that's part of a series of educational games. This particular game involves knitting and learning to create a Super Mario-themed sweater. It's a quirky and unusual title that's a collector's dream for fans of obscure Nintendo games. Genghis Kahn, a 1990 game by KOEI. Lets players assume the role of the legendary Mongol leader. This strategy game involves managing resources, conquering territories, and building an empire. Its complex gameplay and historical theme make it a standout for fans of strategy games, though it didn't achieve mainstream success. Kabuki Quantum Fighter, released in 1991, is a side-scrolling action game where you play as a Kabuki actor turned cyber warrior. The game features a unique visual style and imaginative levels. Blending traditional Kabuki theater elements with futuristic cyberpunk. It's a hidden gem that offers a refreshing twist on the action platformer genre. Parodius is a 1990s shooter that parodies other Konami games. With its wacky visuals and humorous take on classic gaming tropes, it stands out as a lighthearted alternative to more serious shooters. It's a fun and entertaining game that showcases Konami's sense of humor and creativity. Finally, we have the most outrageous entry on our list. Chiller is a 1990 arcade-style game that's notorious for its disturbing and graphic content. You play as a character who must destroy various grotesque objects and enemies in a dungeon-like setting. The game's controversial nature and dark themes make it a memorable and shocking entry in the NES library. And that wraps up our look at some of the strangest and most obscure Nintendo games out there. Have you played any of these weird gems, or do you have other unusual titles to recommend? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.